we're so glad everyone is here tonight, and we are going to get started. We have everybody popping in. I love it right at the last minute sort of time. I am going to let you know we do have somebody coming in to back me up today. We in Alabama today, we have a storm that is supposed to be hitting around 5-ish. It's looking fine right now, but you know, you never know. So if I do get kicked out, we are going to have somebody in so that it should not shut down the meeting. However, if it does, I will get right back in using my phone. So don't go anywhere or try to log back in just a couple minutes if we do get kicked off. But like I said, I don't think we will. There's Aaron. Let me go back to not full screen. Welcome, Aaron. I was just sharing with them the situation and that you are going to be here to back me up tonight. Now, Aaron, if you could do me a favor, could you log in under Pam's account? That way I don't think it'll shut down. Or if we get logged off, are you planning just to restart it?
Just make me the co-host.
Oh, okay. We can have multiple.
There shouldn't be a problem beyond that.
Got you. Okay. I was, okay, there we go. Now we've got all of us in here. So we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you guys for being patient with us as people. We're joining tonight and we're so excited to have everybody here tonight. I do want, so, LaChandra, sorry. Are you, yes, I do see your screen now. Okay, good. I had moved it and did not see it. I want to make sure you were sharing. All right, guys. So let's begin tonight by welcoming everybody to our webinar. We are here with Miss LaChandra McBride. We're so excited to have her. She is a social studies curriculum specialist with Houston ISD School District. She has also worked with Active Classroom for a number of years, serving as a curriculum map developer, professional development trainer, and curriculum consultant. So we are super excited to have her here tonight to share with us. I am Melissa Knowles. I'm going to be manning the chat for you tonight. And so please use that chat box for anything, comments, questions that you need, any technical issues. We'll be happy to address those and get you going. And we're going to have a great session here tonight. So, LaChandra, I'm going to turn it over to you to start the session.
All right. Thank you so much, Melissa. And again, welcome everyone. If you would, we will use Pear Deck at several points during the webinar today. So if you would go to join, just open up a browser, go to joinpd.com. and put in the following code, NMOWAQ, or New Muffins Openly Wish Acidic Quizzes. And you'll also find, of course, with me sharing my screen, you'll always see the code in the upper right-hand corner of the screen as well. So again, joinpd.com to join the Pear Deck, and the code is in the upper right-hand corner, NMOWAQ. So again, I'm sorry?
I've added that to the chat also in case anyone needs that link.
All right, thank you, Melissa. So again, hello and welcome to this evening's webinar titled Teaching All Sides of History, African American Studies, presented by Social Studies School Services. This evening, we will explore and discuss the benefits of teaching African American studies, as well as explore an African American studies-based resource provided by Active Classroom. So, as Melissa stated earlier, I am your presenter, LaChandra McBride. You can call me Chandra. Currently, I'm a curriculum specialist for the Houston ISD Social Studies Curriculum and Development Department. I am a native Houstonian and also a product of Houston ISD in my 13th year of education. So I taught secondary social studies at the middle school level from about 2008 to 2016 and joined the Social Studies Curriculum and Development team NHISD in 2016, and I've been there ever since. I'm truly delighted to host or facilitate today's webinar, and really hope that the information presented will be beneficial to you. All right, so let's go ahead and review our objectives for this evening. So by the end of this evening's webinar, you will have explored benefits of teaching African American studies, explored an African American studies-based active classroom resource, as well as developed at least one next step in applying information discussed during the webinar. Okay, so those are our objectives for this evening. So as far as, our webinar norms and procedures are concerned, they're quite simple. And, if we have any different world fans out there, it was a 90s sitcom. I think you'll definitely appreciate these. So first and foremost, we know it's, past 5 o'clock. I'm sure you've had a very, just wonderfully, productive day. So we definitely want you to relax, let go of any anxiety that you have at this point. As we travel, through this journey together, definitely relate that come to mind, throughout the webinar. And then finally, release, feel free to ask questions, or, not just questions. If you want to share any wonderings or comments that you have, feel free to do so as well. So, just note that you will have the opportunity to share your ideas, your wonderings, comments using the chat feature. We'll have some activities that we'll do through Pear Deck, response activities that is, and also we'll be asking for folks to unmute their mics and share verbally. So yeah, let's just go ahead and get started. Okay, so since our topic today focuses on the teaching of African American studies, I thought that it would be appropriate to start with a quote from Dr. LeGarrette King, his research-based article concerning the teaching of Black history from a Black historical consciousness approach. So Dr. King, if you haven't heard of him, is the Associate Professor of Social Studies Education at the University of Missouri, and he's also the director of the Carter Center for K through 12 Black History Education. So I will actually read the quote aloud, and as I'm reading the quote, everyone, I want you to keep this guiding question in mind, okay? And our guiding question is, what resonates with you? What resonates with you within this quote? So the quote reads, when we say Black history is American history, we ignore a multitude of historical experiences and perspectives. History education continues to be largely Eurocentric, where diversifying the subject has been cosmetic and based on quantitative measurement. Vasquez, Brown, and Brown have called this phenomenon an illusion of inclusion, in which Black historical actors and events might be present in the narrative, but qualitatively, their voices and experiences are ignored. For example, the narratives about Brown v. Board of Education celebrate aspects of integration, yet fail to explore Black counter-narratives. So what I'd like you to do is, again, just keeping the following question in mind, what resonates with you? Think about what I just read and what really just jumps out to you. Take about 30 seconds and we'll call on someone to share, unmute their mic and share. Okay, is there anyone who would like to share? please just go ahead and feel free to unmute your mic.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Felicia Mensah, and one thing that actually a few things resonates with me because I've read this article before, but I'm looking at it in another lens now. And the first thing that I noticed that is the illusion of inclusion. And I think as a person of color, that's something that really sticks to me because I see that a lot, and I see the attempt to include, but how are we attempting to include? Are we including various minorities, and are we including various minority voices? And I think sometimes when we talk about African American studies, we are missing that key aspect, which is the minority voices, the African American voices. And the author made a very good point about the narrative about Brown versus Board of Education. When I learned about it, we learned about how it was a great thing, but we never learned about the counter narrative. So I thought that was a aha moment for me, and it challenges my thinking about what I've learned, when I was a student in history, and how can I not just unlearn, but get different perspectives as well as I continue my journey within education.
Thank you, Felicia. And I particularly appreciate those personal connections that you've made there, especially as it relates to this whole idea of having that illusion of inclusion. Thank you so much for that. Is there anyone else that would like to share what resonated with them?
I can piggyback off of that. I'm Joseph Morin. Thank you, Ms. Manchak, for making me part of this. This is actually, I teach this course of African American Studies at Wheatley High School. And what really got to me was that cosmetic and based on quantitative measurement. And that is something that we do see, especially around not just the US, but the whole entire world, is that it's very cosmic. It's cosmetic when it comes to teaching, especially African American studies, because it's to a point where we just want to level the surface with regular, history moments when it comes to just MLK or Rosa Parks, but we don't get into the deep aspect of how this dysphoria became within the United States.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that, Joseph. Absolutely. Is there anyone else? Anyone else? Okay, well, thank you for those responses. I have to say that, and actually I'm going to go back here, one point, and it kind of goes back to what Joseph and Felicia said. One point that, King makes concerns, the Eurocentric nature of American history education. And just, in thinking about that, and based on information gathered by the National Education Association, or NEA as we would call it, there are several benefits to teaching ethnic studies courses, such as African American studies, because that is our topic, our topic of focus today. And that just, I would argue personally that these benefits will definitely help combat that often one-sided history that students learn in some of our social studies classrooms. So in terms of benefits, one of the benefits, according to NEA, is that, African American Studies courses produce a positive impact on students' achievement, as well as their sense of agency. So here you would see a higher level of awareness, students' awareness of what's going on, not just within the classroom, what they're learning, but even around them in their communities, an increased desire to learn. And then also from that, and thinking about that sense of agency and achievement, just a greater ability to advocate for themselves. Another benefit is just the significant growth in students' literacy skills, which of course we want to see, in every single course that students take, but also attitudes towards learning. So here, not only would you possibly see improvements in reading and writing, but also listening and speaking. We know those are those major literacy components, as well as a development of what, I know this is definitely a buzzword in education, of that growth mindset as it relates to learning. I think connected to that with this third benefit is just this production of higher levels of student intellectual engagement. And this is specifically when students are engaging with literature that's created by authors of their own ethnic background. Okay, so in this particular instance, instead of, seeing those very Eurocentric, I should say, texts and narratives, in this particular instance, students are able to truly see themselves in the curriculum. And the more likely that if they're able to see themselves, the more likely that they'll actually be able to relate to the content, relate to those experiences, and connect them with their own. And so with that, and I know there could be a list of benefits of teaching African American studies, but with this last one, and I think it definitely connects to the prior, teaching African American studies or teaching that curriculum, that rich curriculum, really provides students with increased opportunities to truly become, classroom insiders whose knowledge is not just valued, but useful to academic learning. So it's this idea that students really do bring something to the table. They bring something to the table every single day. And in this instance, as it relates to African American studies, that's something that we need to leverage. We need to leverage their funds of knowledge and experience, those things that they have gone through, those things that they can talk about, and those connections that they can make to the learning. So with that said, and I know I've given quite a few benefits here, let's go ahead and take a quick brain break. And with this brain break, we're actually going to use Pear Deck. Based on what we've discussed, what you've heard thus far, here's our big question. So what has challenged, changed, or confirmed your thinking about African American studies thus far? So if you would just take about, we'll take about 2 minutes to respond via Pear Deck. And then of course, we want to hear your great ideas. We'll just call on some folks to share out. We have about a minute remaining. And that is time. Again, our guiding question here is, what has changed, challenged, or confirmed your thinking about African American studies? Is there anyone that would like to unmute their mic and share your ideas?
Chandra, I just have a quick question and then I can contribute if
Yes.
you twist my arm. But I filled it in on Pear Deck, but I didn't see a way to submit it. Were we supposed to
Oh, I'm so sorry. Yes, as soon as you type in, it's actually going to come to me in real time. So you're good.
Okay, so I didn't need to submit it?
No.
So if I don't remember what I just said, you can tell me?
Yes, I can be able to go back and look at your response.
Okay, so here's what I said. I'm thinking there's a lot of history, but students are tired about hearing about MLK and Malcolm X. They want something current that they can relate to, and we have so much contemporary content. I think that's a direction we need to look to.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for that response. And I think, Aaron, based on what you said, that makes me think about, you know, that whole illusion of inclusion, you know, where kind of pick and choose what it is that that students are going to learn without thinking about those other parts of African American or Black history, or histories, I should say. So yes, definitely. Thank you for that. Is there anyone else that would like to share?
I would like to share. This is Montre.
Oh,
I'd like to
Dr. Rogers. Yes.
really build on what Aaron mentioned about learning more. I think that there is a time and place for all, but here's where I struggle with the development of curriculum. I think that as an African American, I do think it's sad when I find students aren't aware of who these giants are, right? Mm-hmm. But I also think that we have to help them make the connections. And what I mean by that is we have to help them to see, okay, here was Martin Luther King, but who did Martin Luther King impact? Who are those, who stood on the shoulders of Martin Luther King? So I wonder, to what degree are we able to bridge the two? You know, because what I'm learning is that our kids, they don't even sometimes today understand. Now, you know, of course, everybody understands who Martin Luther King is, but they might not understand some people who stood beside Dr. King in the movement. And I just wanted that to me is how we begin to bring the relevance in, when they get to make the connections between the past and the present. So
I absolutely love that. Thank you so much for that, Dr. Rogers. So yeah, just thinking about, I hear people say often, you know, those people that stood beside him, the what is that, unsung heroes, and just thinking about, you know, times today, what are the connections between the two? Thank you so much for that. Someone else, anyone else? So with that said, everyone, and thank you for those responses. As you know, earlier in the presentation, I did mention Dr. LaGarrett King's research-based article concerning the teaching of Black history from a Black historical consciousness approach. So according to Dr. King, and I can definitely share this article with you, as I went ahead and put it in the resources at the end of this presentation. According to Dr. King, there are 6 principles or themes educators should consider when building African American studies-based curriculum. So these particular themes include, and I'll just go one by one, power and oppression. So when we think about that particular theme, this is where, you know, through the curriculum, students would tackle concepts such as, and the realities of racism, white supremacy, as well as their effects on Black people. The second theme that King presents in his article is Black agency, resistance, and perseverance. So here, again, through a rich curriculum, African American Studies curriculum, students would be looking at the ongoing but very strong fight for social change led by Black people. And again, not just, you know, from civil rights. We think about even at the grassroots before that up to present day. The third is the Africa and the African diaspora. So here we're thinking about, you know, the Black experience before 1619. And we know, unfortunately, when we think about 1619, you know, slavery and what we now call the United States, you know, which is, you know, that's oftentimes a student's first introduction or introduction into Black history. But here, you know, you would have examples where students would, you know, not just focus on slavery, you know, for example, in the colonies, but here they would actually be able to explore those successful African kingdoms and Black experiences around the world. A fourth is, or the fourth, I should say, theme is Black joy, and actually it's Black joy and love. And here students would be able to, again, through a rich African American Studies curriculum, explore Black cultural expression and those rich legacies. So an example here would be the Black arts movement or the Renaissance period, African-American Renaissance period. Those would be prime examples. Another theme is Black identities. Here, students would explore the multiple identities of Black people. And again, instead of when we think about, that illusion of inclusion, where you have a few Black people sprinkled throughout the history books, here we would look at, those counter narratives. Students would be able to look at those counter narratives and not just that narrative that paints, or I should say not the narrative that paints Black people as just a one-dimensional group. And then lastly, the last theme presented by King is the Black historical contention theme. And here, students would explore the complexities of Black history. So again, an example here would be exploring the quite contentious issue of reparations. Now, unfortunately, due to time constraints, we won't be able to delve deeply into these principles. However, I do want to say that the big idea here is, to teach African-American studies or histories in a way that truly places Black people front and center from beginning to end. And in teaching about these experiences, of course, it's always important to provide those multiple perspectives. So with that said, this brings us to Active Classroom. Which is, the educational platform and digital platform that has brought us here today. So Active Classroom actually offers a wide variety of lesson plans to teach history through multiple perspectives. Now, as it relates to African American studies, there are several series, Active Classroom series and activities to choose from. One that definitely came to mind for me is the C3 Inquiry series, which includes an activity based on the Great Migration. So with this particular activity titled C3 Inquiry, Did the Great Migration Make Life Better for African Americans? This is an activity that can be taught across several grade levels. As you can see, it can span anywhere from grade 5 to grade 12. And the focus is on primary source analysis as well as the use or application of key critical thinking skills. So specifically, just kind of digging into this activity, it really allows students to explore the economic and social motivations or circumstances that fueled the Great Migration using primary sources such as art, as you can see, the painting in the upper left-hand corner there, and primary source documents. You'll find that within the primary source documents, Active Classroom does provide the documents in their original form, as well as an adapted version, which really increases accessibility for students. So if we think about, and I think this is one of the most important parts in talking about this particular series, or I should say activity, how it truly connects to those Black historical consciousness principles. So if we think about, the Great Migration, this particular activity definitely connects to the theme of Black agency, resistance, and perseverance. As students, in completing this activity, would be able to explore how Black people truly push against, those racist ideologies, as well as the economic and social inequalities in the South through migration, through movement. So that's one of the activities, in addition to many others, that Active Classroom offers. So with that said, everyone, and just thinking about some of the things that we've discussed, everything from that quote from Dr. King in his journal article to the themes, as well as the Active Classroom activity that we just briefly explored now. Let's go ahead and take another brain break. So in this particular instance, I want you to orient your thinking That's what we're going to say using compass points. So what we have here is a nice little compass that's going to help you. It's going to serve as sort of a springboard for your thinking. And we'll start with the north. I want you to go ahead and enter your response in Pear Deck. So based on what we've discussed so far, what we've explored so far, what else do you think there is, what else do you need to know or find out in order to better understand or connect to this topic, whether it's African American studies or those Black consciousness themes, okay? Is there anything that you need to know? What excites you about this topic? Okay, that's your Eastern compass point. Southern, what is your current stance on this topic, or do you have any suggestions that relate to this topic? And then finally, what about this topic causes you to be worried or concerned? So I'm only asking that you respond to one of the compass points. If you want to respond to more than one, that's fantastic as well. And of course, you know, we want to hear your great responses. We will call on some folks to share aloud. So if you would take about 2 minutes to respond to one of the compass points or more if you like, and we'll share out momentarily. All right, we have about, let's see, about 30 seconds remaining. Okay, and that is time. So once again, want to hear some of those great ideas. Is there anyone that would like to unmute their mic and share?
I'll share.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. Is that Felicia?
Yes.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, Felicia.
So as a curriculum writer, I'm excited that African American history and the implementation of the studies in the classroom is something that is being not only discussed, but there's actual plans, there are action steps on when is going to be available, when curriculum will be available for districts and when it will be available for teachers to teach African American studies. And I'm also excited as a writer about upcoming resources that will be available on Active Classroom that focuses on African American history.
Thank you for that, Felicia. I'm excited that you're excited. Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, someone else. Where's your thinking right now?
I'll share.
Okay, awesome. Thank you.
So I am excited about African American studies actually happening in curriculum being written as well. I'm also really excited about this topic. I thought about how students can see themselves in the curriculum, especially our African American students. I just recently had the opportunity to discuss with my family about their participation in the Great Migration. And I think that would be powerful to have students to make those connections in the classroom and relate to what they're learning in history.
Thank you so much for that, Bianca, and I especially, again, love that personal connection there. Absolutely. All right, someone else, where's your thinking? Where did the compass take you?
Shardra, I was excited today when I saw that Sesame Street is adding some African American puppets, which I know that their faculty, their human faculty has been diverse, but their puppets now are going to be more diverse. So that was exciting to see. I read that this morning.
Oh, okay. Awesome. I absolutely love that. Okay. Definitely a fan of Sesame Street, so that inclusion is a positive thing. Thank you so much for that, Melissa. All right, anyone else?
My current stance would probably, like, I like how it, I guess you can connect, you can have, when it comes to like curriculum with active classroom, you can also use it with different history topics. So you can connect, like, after the Civil War, what happened, and then you can also connect Jacob Lawrence with his whole entire art and his whole entire pieces with the Great Migration. So that's actually exciting, not my current stance, but that's exciting how all that can come in together with teaching this class.
Oh, absolutely. I love that. And that actually makes me think about what Dr. Rogers was saying, you know, making those very important connections between, you know, the past and the present, and even with this, you know, with the art of the times or the past times. So yeah, definitely. Thank you so much. All right. Can we get one more? There one more out there?
You stole my comment. I was going to talk about Jacob Lawrence, and I was going to talk about the use of art to drive this course, the use of art, music, movies, popular culture to drive this course. I'm totally excited about a number of things. One being the principles, the curriculum developer. How do you use these principles as a framework to ensure that you're balanced? But even more so, how do you help kids to understand the principles for themselves? So making sure that you perhaps display the principles, talk about the principles.
Dr. Rogers, you're going out a bit. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Oh, that's okay then.
No, keep going, Dr. Rogers.
Oh, well, I'm just thinking about, you know, how you introduce the principles that you discuss to the kids, right, to the students. And the students begin to see the connections between their work and the lessons that they're involved in. And is this about, you know, Black joy or agency, and why?
I absolutely love that. Absolutely. So having the students internalize that as well. Absolutely fantastic comment, Dr. Rogers. Thank you so much. All right. So with that said, everybody, thank you so much for those comments and just thoughtful ideas. Greatly appreciate it. But now, you know, we've talked about you know, the benefits of teaching African American studies. We've talked about those points made by Dr. King in his journal article, as well as, you know, even active classroom, what active classroom offers. So now we want to think about next steps, okay? Specifically, what are your next steps going to be, okay? And so here are just a few ideas. So maybe you want to start by just expanding your knowledge of African American history. And this could, you know, start with just visiting, you know, your local library or a reputable website, you know, based on African American histories. Another thing that you could do, we've explored at least one activity or series / activity offered by Active Classroom. So maybe your next step will involve exploring that particular activity or maybe other active classroom resources related to African American studies. And then finally, and again, I'm pretty sure there's many other steps that you could take from this point forward. Maybe you want to begin by advocating for an African American Studies course, whether it's on your campus or perhaps within your district. Maybe you're a middle school teacher who wants to make sure that this course ends up in the high school within your feeder pattern. So again, these are just a few ideas, but I'm definitely challenging you to think about what you're going to do after, you leave this webinar as it relates to the teaching of African American Studies. So before we close out, we do have a little time for a few questions, or if you don't have any questions, do you have comments? Are there some, comments or final thoughts that you would like to share with the group?
So Shardra, we have some comments in the chat box.
Okay.
For you. So Samantha loves the connection to the principles in the lessons, as Dr. Rogers was talking about that. She posted that one. And then Gail has, she was doing her north, south, east, west. I don't know if Gail wants to unmute and talk about this. This is great. But I think she was typing and it took a little bit longer. So Gail, do you want to unmute and explain your ideas?
Sure.
Awesome.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the invitation. Well, I'm a collaborating partner of Dr. Rogers and LaShardra McBride in professional development for teachers in religion and religious literacy education. And I've had the good fortune to do a partial review of the African American Studies course requested by Shalon Bond, our mutual friend and colleague. And I'm absolutely thrilled that this ethnic studies course has made its way into social studies curricula around the state, and hope it will only continue to expand. And I think Active Classroom will have a really powerful role in that process. So kudos to you guys, Erin. I do have a comment about the absence of religion in the curriculum. It's included in the first section on Africa and the study of Orishas. And then it largely falls out of the curriculum after that. And so teachers will have to be really intentional to bring the importance of religion into the curriculum in innovative ways that utilize topics like agency, resistance, and perseverance, and finding standards to expand the discussion of religion in African American life, or otherwise it will just be missing. The compass point exercise I really loved, and it made me think about one place I need to strengthen my knowledge of the Black church is with respect to how it changed when it migrated north, along with this massive influx of people. And the Black church on PBS recently, Bianca mentioned, I just watched that and wept. It was so powerful. And I thought, why didn't I major in African American studies? Why didn't I do this right the first time? So here I am late in my career, where I really get to employ this work as a collaborating partner with Dr. Rogers and Shardra. And so I'm thrilled to see this opportunity today. I love the Black consciousness approach. I taught critical race theory for years. And so I think that this is a huge opportunity for schools. And I hope that the illusion of inclusion won't also be the case for religion within this curriculum. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Gail, and I definitely appreciate your comments, especially as it relates to the inclusion of religion in the African American Studies courses. So thank you for that. Is there anyone else? We probably can get one more in. Anyone? Okay, so, I'm sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
I guess I have one more wondering, and
Yes.
I think it came about having this conversation. I think it's important for us to continue to have conversations surrounding African American history and the implementation of African American history. My wondering is, as we, push out curriculum or we're writing curriculum, I think it's very important that we are mindful of the language that we use and also find ways to provide opportunities for educators to learn how to teach American history without coming off insensitive, but coming from a place where it's a learning opportunity for everyone.
I absolutely love that. Yes, absolutely, Felicia. We have to remain mindful, especially as writers and educators, how we actually approach the teaching of African American studies. Thank you so much for that. Okay, so with that said, everyone, I do have, just in closing, some final thoughts. And these thoughts are not actually my thoughts, but instead the thoughts of Akwesi Tyehimba, who is the owner of the Pan-African Connection. It's a bookstore located, bookstore, and also they carry different types of African apparel, things of that nature, located in Oak Cliff, Texas. And according to Ms. Tyehimba, she says that there have been a lot of myths and a lot of miseducation about African history. So often our children have been told that they don't have a history, that they don't come from anywhere, and that their history begins as slaves. Our first priority is to inform them that not only do they have a history, but they have a great history, a history that they could be proud of. So I couldn't think of anything better to end this webinar with than this particular quote. And with that said, everyone, I really thank you for your participation and your unbelievably thoughtful comments. And on behalf of myself and Active Classroom or Social Studies School Services, I guess I should say, thank you so much for being here, and I hope you have a absolutely fantastic evening. So good night, everyone.
Thank you so much, Chandra. That was amazing. Wow, I love that quote at the end. Oh my goodness. Thinking about curriculums in the past that I've taught K through 8, you are right in how it is represented, and wow, that is amazing. You did a great job. This is a great conversation tonight. We've had 2 really heavy topics this week, so it's a lot to ponder and think about. So we are going to go ahead and conclude tonight's session. I'm going to put an evaluation link in the chat. Please fill that out for us and let us know how we can improve and how well we were able to represent the information tonight to you. We also have a professional development certificate available. If you need one, feel free to email help@socialstudies.com and request that certificate, and they will get it right over to you so you can get credit for being here with us tonight. But I think the real credit is all the information and the great resources and ideas and the principles and everything that you've shared tonight. Chandra, thank you so much. I appreciate everyone for being here with us tonight.
Yes, thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.